What's up, guys? You are now listening to me. You're listening to me, not fill in the blank. Sorry to trick you. I don't want to establish a routine of trickery and facades here on my channel. I'm sorry. I regret that. I just can't put a full song in here. That's not what this video is meant to be. And it's illegal. Unless, I suppose, I did a cover, but I'm not musically talented. So, if you did fall for that, get a grip. Come on, pull your life together. Anyway, good morning, everyone. You can call me Amnosiak, and this here is my video on the album Teens of Denial. If you didn't get the joke at the beginning of the video, it's probably because you haven't heard the album's first track, Fill in the Blank. I love this song. It introduces the story, our protagonist, and everything so well, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Teens of Denial was a 2016 album released by the band Car Seat Headrest. I love this band. If someone laid out pictures or some other convenient visual representation of every band that there is in a big grid and asked me to pick which one I'd put above all the others, I'd definitely say Car Seat Headrest. Or, I suppose you could say that they're my favorite. Sometimes it is difficult to define what genre these guys fall into. Albums like Making a Door Less Open and some earlier stuff by Will Toledo, the lead singer, lean into lo-fi or electronic sounds, while classics like Twin Fantasy and the topic of this video, Teens of Denial, sound more like creative indie rock. Now, I have two prefaces. The first, throughout this video I'm going to be assigning a story to this album. This story is entirely my own interpretation, and other interpretations are completely valid. I'm eager to hear potential critiques of my theories in the comments. Also, while I've done my best to research information about this album, there could have been things that I missed in some interview. To that, I say that I stand by the death of the author. This theory has been entirely derived from the source material, Teens of Denial, and any external information that I found was only used to potentially critique my own theory. Secondly, I'm aware that there's a new version of Teens of Denial. I'm aware that it is literally called Joe's Story. And while I do believe that this album tells a story, and the name that I will assign to the protagonist of this story is Joe, I will not be mentioning the new version going forward. Now, to begin, our establishing shot, the very first song, Fill in the Blank, is, in my opinion, the perfect encapsulation of teen angst. This song foreshadows many future themes of the album, such as difficulties with mental health, self-hatred, and suppression and exploitation by authority. It also gives us the current mental state of the protagonist, which is self-hating and struggling with authority, like the themes. Anyway, despite being an amazing opening track, there's not much more to get from this beside a thematic overture. For each song, I will be analyzing how it impacts the story and what part of the supposed teenage condition the song illustrates. Fill in the Blank establishes depression, as stated in the chorus. I'm going to give our protagonist a name. Joe. Yes, this next song is called Vincent, but I think that is someone else. This song actually happens to come with a music video, which is surprisingly illuminating. It helped me realize that this song is primarily about sex. That is the facet of the experience that this song explores, and it leans closer to a more young adult lifestyle, what with getting drunk or high or somehow impaired and then having meaningless sex. Once I realized this, a lot of lyrics made sense. The line about lots of tourists that he's gonna party with and have sex with. The line about sadism. He's not in it for the pleasure, he's in it for the pain that comes with repeated meaningless sex. And the closest thing that this song has to a chorus, a conversation between two voices listing attributes that they don't have, is the singer struggling to explain to himself why people would ever want to sleep with him, simply deepening the cycle of self-sorrow. I believe the name of the song has multiple meanings. The first is explained to us in the song. The Wikipedia page for clinical depression has a portrait by Vincent van Gogh. The second meaning, I think, is that it is a name assigned to the protagonist's lovers. He calls them Vincent. This trend of assigning a meaningless name to one's lover continues in the song Martin, from the album Making a Door Less Open, which is called Martin, but is actually about a person named Justin. This next song is so cathartic. The lyrics are not something to write home about, except for the rawness of what happened to that chubby little kid. But the guitar, the yelling, the pickup right after the silence left by Vincent, it's a great song. Destroyed by Hippie Powers, the third song on the album Teens of Denial, talks about a sort of resistance by our protagonist, Joe, to get fully messed up on whatever drugs are being offered to him, be it beer or DMT. He feels regret and he wants to stop, but then he thinks about what he used to be, about how he's getting more messed up than what he bargained for, but he still hasn't quite reached the high that he came for. And he falls in. He agrees to get fully messed up. I believe that this descent is represented by the chaotic guitar solo that finishes the song. The aspect of the teenage experience that this song represents isn't abuse of substances. Drugs are better with friends. Or are friends better with drugs? Or both? This song shows the next facet of the teenage experience, perhaps something more universal than the previous ones, this being peer pressure. But there's something else that I feel this song represents, even more than that, and that is apathy. The lazy guitar, the distressed moaning in the chorus, and the hallucinations of authority telling him off all paint a picture of a teenager who no longer cares. The excuses he uses to do what he does, the justification of the contemporary style, are all delivered in such a flat, tired voice It's really hard to take it all seriously, and I believe that to be intentional. As for the story, the song does not advance it much. The song is also where I get the name of the protagonist from. The full name of the song is Joe Gets Kicked Out of School for Using Drugs with Friends but Says This Isn't a Problem. It's actually a news headline that Will Toledo found while making sure that the name of his last album, Teens of Style, wasn't taken by someone else. I found that to be an interesting tidbit. I would have discarded this as a one-time thing if it were not for the repetition of the name at the end of the album in the song Joe Goes to School. Here, in the next song, Not What I Needed, our protagonist looks outward. He thinks about what he has been told, and none of it is helpful. This song represents that facet of the teenage experience of misunderstanding. The people around our protagonist think they know what he needs, but they do not. Also, I want to say that I was surprised to find myself enjoying the song as much as I did. For much of it, it sounds like a generic rock song, but at the end, when they play the interview over that really cool sound, I really like it. The turning point of the album is here, and it comes with what I think is the most generally popular song on the album, Drunk Drivers / Killer Whales. The Killer Whales part confused me for a while until I heard an interview in which Will Toledo explains that the way whales will ram their head into walls in captivity is similar to how restless teens drunk drive. The contribution that I believe this song adds to the story is the most major event on the album so far. One of Joe's friends dies in a drunk driving accident. Possibly, Joe was the driver. A lot of the song talks about the really bad feelings that come with the party being over, and I believe that these are propelled forward by the fact that one of Joe's friends literally died. I feel like this fits the story of the album incredibly well, like a puzzle piece, with details that are unclear until it is placed into the full picture. This is the moment when he wakes up. He realizes that he cannot sustain this lifestyle and he needs to make a change. It's not as easy as it sounds, though. 1937 State Park is about the funeral of Joe's friend that died in the drunk driving accident, and the song capitalizes on this to make some societal critique, something teenagers are prone to do. But at the same time, the song is criticizing teenage culture by poking fun at Air Jordans and magazines. The song is doing what teens do best, but in a very self-reflective way, making fun of the people who normally hurl these insults. I think it's very well done. The song capitalizes on this dichotomy with the line, "I steer clear of graveyards, they are cliché." My favorite line in all of CSH discography. By poking fun on how counterculture is too mainstream now, and to be truly unique, you must be counterculture. In addition, the societal critique serves as masking the true emotions of sadness that Joe ought to be feeling after losing his friend. The facet of the teenage experience represented here is just the general critique that they are so prone to engage in. Going back through these songs, I think about how much I love all of them. The instrumental catharsis, the uniqueness, the lyricism, it's perfect. However, there's one song that I'm always tempted to skip when I listen through the whole album. Unforgiving Girl. She's not in. This song shares the problem with Not What I Needed in that it sounds like a generic rock song. However, this song is worsened by its very confusing lyrics and lack of almost any unique elements at all. However, it does contribute to the story. Joe is now asking his friends how he ought to get out of this terrible lifestyle that he feels so trapped in, and his friends have all learned to embrace their failures. But Joe has been trained on traditions of shame associated with religion, as we see in Drugs with Friends and later Cosmic Hero. There's also some connections between this song and Will Toledo's ex, but I'm not going to get into that. The aspect of the teenage condition that this song represents is jealousy. Most teenage jealousy manifests over different reasons, but in this case it is a jealousy of freedom from guilt. The next three songs are my favorite songs on the album, and possibly some of my favorite songs ever. Cosmic Hero starts with the trumpet, playing alone. I think this is Joe, asking someone other than his friends for help. He's sort of stripped of his voice in this song, left with only a trumpet. He feels lost and alone, and he's turned to someone he never thought he would, the religious authority. This song is largely from the perspective of the authority. They spend much of the song criticizing and giving advice to Joe, advice that evidently won't work, and then, during the much harsher guitar segments, they say their true thoughts. They will go to heaven. Joe won't. This effect of alternating between calm advice and true thoughts is emphasized near the end of the song, when voices alternate between saying, "It'll be alright," and "F you." They're telling Joe that he'll be alright, but really it's insulting him for being different, for living how he lives. The song emphasizes suppression by authority, as foreshadowed by fill in the blank. The Costa Concordia was an Italian cruise ship that sank in 2012. The captain sailed the boat too close to the shore, tearing a massive hole in the side of the ship. 32 people died during the chaos of evacuation. It is predicted to cost $300 million to salvage all the parts. In the story of Teens in Denial, Joe is at an all-time low. He turned to his friends, he's turned to authority, he's looked to society, and he can't find a way out of the self-destructive cycle that he felt trapped in at the beginning of the album. He feels like a sinking ship. This song has 3 parts. It starts with a sad, slow part that edits some lyrics of Dido's White Flag to completely change the meaning and paint a picture of depression. The next part is spoken word. and it is a slow escalation that includes some of my other favorite lines of the album. I was given a body that is falling apart. My house is falling apart. I was given a mind that can't control itself. I was given a ship that can't steer itself. The part finishes with the singer practically screaming, and his final resolution, after all the pain and depression, is this. He gives up. The final part of the song turns into a societal critique. The part is a bit more refined than the meaningless, angry pointing in 1937 State Park. Here a condition is described. Here, Joe can only come to one conclusion. He gives up. Specifically, he gives up on trying to do what anyone else tells him to. This leads nicely into the next song. The facet of the teenage experience he described here is obvious. Spiraling. The climax of the album. The triumphant resolution. This is Connect the Dots, the saga of Frank Sinatra. The cure to all Joe's, to all Will's ailments. He's gonna follow his dreams. He's gonna be a star, no matter what the people back home tell him. He's gonna punch the heart of everyone. This song is so good. It's so inspirational and exciting, and I just love it. I remember long bus rides in Greece when I'd fall asleep on the bus and awake to the light laugh and comment, "It's all downhill from here." This is a song about following your dreams. It is the escape from the cycles of harm and sickness. It's what encouraged me to start writing stories and making these videos. Not that I think I'll be famous, but because following your dreams, no matter how successful you are, is the way you stay functioning. Always find time to do what drives you. That is the lesson this album teaches, and I think that might be why I love it so much. Alright, inspirational speech over. We're on to the final song of the album, and here we get an outside perspective on Joe, the teenager. I'll be honest, I had to check Genius annotations to figure this one out. This is Joe Goes to School. It's a pretty short song, so I'm going to read it in full. I saw a horse, and it saw me. You know, their skulls are so crazy, but they still can't see. This external perspective, it does not matter who they are, they do not understand the horse. It had big brown eyes, shiny and sad. It was just a horse. I couldn't tell if it was sad or not. The horse looks sad, but doesn't every horse look sad? How can you really tell if it's actually struggling, if it actually has a problem? I held out my hand like there was something in it. Managed to touch it. It did not seem interested. The person reaches out. The horse doesn't respond. Then a car pulled up, so I split the scene. They're anxious. The horse is anxious. They want to minimize interaction. I am a tourist attraction, biking down Dog Street. It all comes back to Will. Will wrote this. Will was the horse. Will was Joe. And Will was biking down Dog Street while he wrote lyrics for his albums, because Will is in a band now. Will followed his dream. Thanks for listening. I encourage you to listen to this album, if you haven't already. It's really good. If you have any other critiques, or potentially different theories, because different reads of work can be simultaneously valid, I'd love to hear them. I read and reply to every comment that I can. Anyway, that's all for now. Okay, bye.